This program is brought to you by the partners of A Rood Awakening International. Help others find truth. Support A Rood Awakening International today.
Earlier this week, we all celebrated Passover with friends and family. This weekend, we are commemorating Passover with a full day of teachings and a meal together, just like Yeshua did at the Last Supper. You can watch those teachings all day tomorrow, but tonight we are going to preview those teachings with the teachers themselves. Matthew Vanderels, Jake Hilton, and Avi Lipkin coming to us live from Israel. We are getting ready for Passover 2024 because it's the end of the sixth day. The sun is set, and this is Shabbat Night Live.
As they take this message out into the world.
Shabbat Shalom, Torah fans, and happy Passover. Welcome to Shabbat Night Live with Michael Rood. Michael's teachings have been blessing us for the past 2 weeks, and tonight we are going to do something a little different to bring in our Passover celebration all day tomorrow. Please welcome my co-host, Ted Clayton.
You know, Scott, I am so excited. Now is the time. Here it is.
Yep.
Passover 2024, Return to the Mountain. Ladies and gentlemen, call your friends, family, neighbors, everybody. We got them all here tonight. We've got Avi Lipkin here tonight.
Yes.
We've got Matthew Vanderels tonight. We have got Jake Hilton, and most of all, we've got Michael Rood here tonight with
Yes.
a special teaching that he's done for us in the past.
Yes, this is a Passover that we did at a hotel where I think it was probably the most spectacular one. Well, we've done some pretty spectacular stuff.
Oh yeah, I was just fixing to say 20-foot columns,
That
big things.
That was interesting in itself. Yeah, this one was where we had the split rock,
Yes.
and we had like a video of water coming down, like a fountain kind of thing. And
You
it
know,
was interesting.
folks, you've never lived until Michael Rood comes to you and says, you know, I want to recreate the split rock. And can we actually have running water going through it? Our scene development folks were going crazy trying to develop this, but they did it.
They did it really
And
good.
it looks really, really good. And so that's going to be right after our interviews tonight with our special guests from Passover.
Yep, we are doing that tonight, and that's going to be a great thing. You'll get a little bit of a teaser as to what's going to happen
That's
tomorrow.
right.
But the most important thing is that you can still get tickets right there.
Yes.
PassoverCharlotte.com. Yes, you can still, even if you early tomorrow morning, if you can't do it till
That's
tomorrow
right.
morning or something, you
That's
can still get tickets to Passover. There is the information on the bottom of the screen.
Yes, and it's now. Folks, you have got to tell everyone you know that Michael Rood's Passover is happening tomorrow. It's going to be great. We're going to have teaching all day. We're going to have the wonderful Seder that night. You're just not going to want to miss this.
Exactly. No, it's going to be lots of fun. And I think one of the greatest things is having Avi there from Israel, going to answer questions.
Answering the
sensitive stuff. You can ask him anything you want about what's happening in Israel and Gaza and all that. Avi will tell you. I mean, he knows the inside scoop. He knows people.
Yep.
So get your questions ready. And yes, even if you're watching online, can you ask? Yes, we're going to show you how you can ask online those questions. Yeah, and the people in the studio here can ask questions too. So
That's great.
Gonna be lots of fun. All right, so stay tuned for Passover. Let's get to it. Our first interview with our Passover speakers is next. Well, welcome to the special edition of Shabbat Night Live. We are previewing Passover 2024. That's happening tomorrow, and our first guest is on with us right now. Please welcome Matthew Vanderels. Welcome, Matthew.
Thank you, Scott, for having me on. It's such an honor to be here, and I'm so looking forward to the conference. It's going to be great.
Yeah, you'll be here tomorrow. You're first up, 10 a.m. to noon, so you've got kind of a back-to-back thing. Are you doing two presentations there, or one, or what's the plan?
Well, it'll probably be two presentations that are focused on, of course, the same topic, but we're going to be going over the echoes of Exodus, if you will, throughout the entire biblical story. You know, so many times we get so focused on the first Passover, the big one, right, and Exodus and everything that went with that, but if we keep looking, we continue to see the same type of theme happening throughout Scripture, and it's in all of these stories, especially in the prophets, when Israel's about to go, Judah's about to go into exile. the prophets start speaking the same language, Passover language, and they're pointing to something much bigger than what took place in Egypt. Of course, they're pointing to what took place on Calvary. And so it's two messages surrounding that topic. I hope it's going to be edifying.
Oh, yeah, it sounds great. Yeah, and we really love how you have find themes in the Bible. When we've had you up here on Shabbat Night Live and at Passover last year, that's why we just keep having you back, because the audience just loves this type of stuff. And I love how you find those themes in the Bible, because we do need to look at that, don't we? That's kind of what makes the Bible a cohesive book, are these themes that, over the course of the writing of the Bible, no one could plan that. This is obviously a plan of Yehovah that we discover, centuries later, reading through it and going, hey, there's patterns here.
Oh, absolutely. This is what makes the Word of God so beautiful, in my opinion, is because just how amazing it is to have all of these themes that so many people that were inspired by the Holy Spirit work together, likely unknowingly, to produce this amazing story that we're invited to participate in. And so it's always gets me excited.
Well, we're really happy you're coming. And speaking of coming, so if people are coming to Charlotte for a little while, maybe a little bit longer than Passover. By the way, thank you for spending Passover with us on this weekend. I'm assuming you're doing something with your congregation as well. But if folks want to come to a Shabbat service, like we don't have Shabbat services here at A Rood Awakening, but we have one nearby, and that's where you are. Can you tell us where that is and when you hold services?
Sure. We hold services, of course, on Shabbat at 11 a.m., or if you want to fellowship and have some coffee, 10 a.m. But we start worship services at 11 on Saturdays, of course, and we're down here in Rock Hill, South Carolina. So I think we're about 20 minutes away, maybe 15, 20 minutes away from the studio there, just south. So,
all right. So it's a short drive for anybody who comes here. It's not far.
Not far at all. No, everybody's welcome. Come worship with us if you're in town, for sure.
Okay, and that is called Founded in Truth. That's right?
Founded in Truth Fellowship. Yes.
Founded in Truth Fellowship. All right, thank you. Matthew Vanderel's first up tomorrow on Passover 2024. We will see you here tomorrow at 10 a.m. Eastern. Thank you very much for doing it, Matthew. We always appreciate you, and thank you for coming. We will see you online and here in the studio. And like we said, Matthew is first up, so don't miss it. 10 a.m. Eastern. See you here. All right, our next guest on Passover 2024 is asleep right now because he's in Israel. It's Avi Lipkin, and he is going to be joining us tomorrow at 1 p.m. 1 p.m. to 3 p.m. We're going to have Avi Lipkin here live, question and answer from you and the folks in the audience here. So, live again, 1 to 3 p.m. tomorrow Eastern time. You can ask him anything you want. And this guy knows a lot. You're going to want to have some really in-depth questions for Avi. He actually has a political party in Israel that is attempting to combine Jews and Christians in the Knesset. Now, he hasn't been successful yet with that, but that's how deep he is into Israel. He's former military in Israel. He knows what he's talking about. In fact, his wife worked for Israeli intelligence. And so they know all kinds of things that maybe not the average person knows, and they know lots of other people too. And so they can let you have the inside scoop on things that maybe you don't think they know about. So you want to have your questions for Avi. Avi's actually been here on Shabbat Night Live. He did a love gift with us, and he actually did a whole series on Shabbat Night Live. And you can look that up on our YouTube page and find him there, or you can go on our store and get the series there to keep on DVD or Blu-ray. But Avi is a fascinating guy. He knows a whole lot of stuff, and he doesn't pull any punches. If you want to know the truth, Avi will tell you the truth. So get your hard questions, stuff you don't think is going to be allowed to be answered, but oh, guess what? Avi will answer those questions. So bring your hard questions. Again, that's tomorrow for Passover 2024, April 27th, 1 p.m. to 3 p.m., 2 hours of Q&A with the one and only Avi Lipkin. So we will see you here for that. All right, our final guest for Passover 2024 is the one and only Jake Hilton. Welcome, Jake.
Scott, thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, well, you're going to be here tomorrow, and if no one knows, Jake is the head of and founder of Sword of Yehovah Ministries. All kinds of stuff going on. Jake, I want to talk real quick about this documentary you just released. last month in March. We've put it up everywhere we can so folks can see it on the michaelrood.tv app and on our YouTube page. It's on your YouTube page. And I love your heart in this. You just want people to see it. We can't even monetize it. In fact, we can't monetize it. And that's a good thing, because then it's just, nobody's making anything off of this. It's just truly from your heart. Tell us what this is really about in a nutshell.
Well, it goes back to the October 7th massacre, just the diabolical evil that we saw committed against Israel by Hamas. It was a few days after that I just felt this intense pull in my spirit to go to Israel and experience Israel and the Jewish people for myself. And so I did. I traveled to Israel, and I was there for just under a month, saw what I saw, learned what I learned, experienced what I experienced. And after getting back from Israel, so now we're talking basically mid-November of 2023, there was this need in my heart and soul to utilize the talents and abilities that God has blessed me with to create a documentary. And the documentary, yes, it's going to obviously, it covers the evils and the horrors that we witnessed on October 7th. But the ultimate purpose of the documentary is to, with the sword of truth, with the sword of Yehovah, to break the chains and the shackles of lies that so many people are in, and all of the lies that are being spread about Israel, and then ultimately reach the climax of the documentary where we focus on the beauty of Israel, the love of Israel. And the documentary, the title for it is Am Yisrael Chai, which is the people of Israel live, meaning they endure. They outlast all of their enemies. And one of the concluding lines, one of the lines that came to me very, very clearly as I was making the documentary is that the reason why Israel outlasts all of their enemies is because Israel's love is stronger than all of their enemies' hate.
Indeed. So I encourage people to watch it either on the michaelrood.tv app, on your YouTube page, our YouTube page. And tomorrow we're going to be talking about something different. You've got a whole entire presentation for Passover. Starts at 3 o'clock Eastern tomorrow, goes to 5 p.m. You're also doing the Seder. I'm kind of racing through this because we only have a minute left. But you're also going to be doing the Seder here with Michael Rood. That's going to be lots of fun. But tell us what your presentation's about.
Well, Return to the Mountain, Scott, is really obviously what the whole event is really all about. And that's what we need to do in our own lives. We look to the scriptures and we see an example that I'll be using in the presentation is that at a time when Elijah was fleeing for his life, where did he go? Where did God bring him in order to preserve his life? He went to the mountain. He returned to the mountain of the covenant of Yehovah God. He returned to Sinai. Where did Paul go when Paul was at this place in his life where he was trying to figure it out, trying to really come to an understanding of what truth really is? He went to the mountain. He returned to the place of the everlasting covenant.
So literally returning to the mountain. Okay.
That's what we need to do, right? We need to return to the mountain, and also, with Nehemiah, it's the rebuilding of the wall in our own lives, the wall of Torah, and that covenant relationship between us and Yehovah God through the gift of his beloved son, Yeshua.
All right, wonderful. Well, that is at 3 o'clock tomorrow, 3 to 5 tomorrow, a 2-hour presentation. That's the beauty of this year. We've got 2-hour presentations from all of our presenters. And so you'll be on at 3 o'clock tomorrow, Jake, and of course, the Seder at 7 p.m. Eastern. So we will see you tomorrow, and we'll see everyone else at Passover 2024.
Not one book of the Bible was written by Greeks. They were all written by Hebrews. So why do we accept that the best and most accurate translations of the New Testament come from the Greek?
Don't think this is something that's going to tear apart your faith. The story is essentially the same, but there is tweaking that's done in there that has very harmful effect. So we need to seek relationship with the God of truth and get back to what was originally said.
In the best translation, Dr. Miles Jones and Patrick McGuire reveal a fascinating new methodology to create the most accurate translation of the book of the Revelation ever produced. This month's Love Gift teaching, the best translation, is not available anywhere online, but we'll give it to you as our thanks for supporting A Rood Awakening International. When you donate $50 as a love gift to this ministry in April, you'll get the best translation with Dr. Miles Jones and Patrick McGuire on DVD or Blu-ray. Donate $100 and we'll send you the best translation, plus a Rose of Sharon gift set featuring a vial of anointing oil and a beautiful crystal bottle. Donate $300 and we'll send you the best translation, the Rose of Sharon crystal bottle set, and a handmade wooden Omer counter to celebrate the countdown to Shavuot. These gifts are a limited time offer from Michael Rood to thank you for your support. Make your donation today and receive the $50 gift, the $100 gift, or the $300 gift. Thank you. Your donations ensure that important teachings like the best translation keep coming from A Rood Awakening International. Use your smartphone to scan the QR code on your screen to donate now and receive these limited time gifts. Or call 888-766-3610. Or get your gifts online with a donation at monthlylovegift.com.
Yeshua said, Abraham saw my day and rejoiced. When did Abraham see his day? When the King of Righteousness, the Melchizedek, brought forth bread and wine. And when he brought forth bread and wine, it says that the Melchizedek blessed the Most High. And that prayer is still remembered and is what Yeshua said when he blessed the Most High the night of the Last Supper, the night before the Passover lambs were slain. Yeshua said, Baruch atah Yehovah, Eloheinu melech ha'olam, hamotzi lechem mi'aretz. This broken bread represents my broken body which is broken for you. By my stripes you are healed. Do this as often as you do this in remembrance of me. And then he took the cup. And in the words of the Melchizedek, he blessed the Most High. Baruch atah Yehovah Eloheinu melech ha'olam, Borei pri hagafen. Blessed are you, Yehovah, our God, King of the universe, creator of the fruit of the vine. And Yeshua said, this represents and has represented from the time of Abraham the renewed covenant. My blood will purchase for you. As often as you do it in remembrance of me. Shabbat Shalom. I want to tell you the story of Passover. Israel and his 11 sons joined Joseph in Egypt during the Great Famine, and they flourished to a great and prosperous nation. A generation passed, and a tyrannical Pharaoh oppressed our people with slavery and hard labor. But just as God had promised to our father Abraham, in the 4th generation, he would bring us out of Egypt with a mighty hand and bring us into a land that is filled with milk and honey. An Egyptian princess, the daughter of the totalitarian ruler, rescued an infant Hebrew child that was floating in a basket in the Nile. She drew the child out and named him Moshe, which means to draw out. And he raised the baby boy in the court of Pharaoh. As an adult, Moshe killed an Egyptian who was beating a Hebrew slave, and he fled to the land of Midian to avoid prosecution. He spent 40 years as a desert shepherd in the land of Midian until he was summoned to the foot of the mountain of God by a voice out of a burning bush that instructed Moses to return to Egypt and bring the entire nation of Israel back to meet with him at that mountain in Midian. After receiving the command to bring the children of Israel out of Egypt, Moshe said, but they'll not believe me, or they'll not believe my instructions. They'll say, Yehovah's not appeared to you. That's preposterous. It's ridiculous. It's ludicrous, outrageous, irrational, incongruous. They'll never believe me. But Yehovah said to Moses, what is that in your hand? And he said, a shepherd's rod. And God said, cast it to the ground. And Moses cast it to the ground as he was commanded. And it became a serpent. And Yehovah said, reach out your hand and take it by the tail. He reached out and took it by the tail, and it immediately became a rod in his hand again. And the Almighty said, this sign that I've just given you is so that Israel may believe that Yehovah, the God of their fathers, the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob has appeared to you and is with you. The rod of Moses, henceforth called the rod of God, is the proclamation, the ensign, the banner over his people. Yehovah is with you and among you as your shepherd, your protector of the righteous and the judge of the wicked. Moses returned to the court of Pharaoh with a message. Thus saith Yehovah, let my people go 3 days into the wilderness and do sacrifice. Keep a feast to me. And then Moses warned Pharaoh, Israel is my firstborn. Let Israel go, or I will kill your firstborn. Pharaoh declared, I do not know Yehovah, nor will I let the people go. The people belong to me. They are obviously idle, and that's why they want to do sacrifice. So let them make their daily tally of bricks without their daily provision of straw. Let them use their spare time not to keep a feast to Yehovah, but let them use their spare time to glean straw from the fields. And so the people, under their taskmasters, had to then go day and night to glean out in the field. It looked like a punishment. It looked like everything that Moses said to them was turning to dust in their mouth. And so the people remonstrated against Moses. And he complained to the management. He complained to Yehovah. And Yehovah said this. He made a declaration. I am Yehovah. You tell the people this. I am Yehovah. I will redeem you, and you will be my people. I am Yehovah. I will give you the promise of your father Abraham. I am Yehovah. I will harden Pharaoh's heart and bring great judgments, and the Egyptians will know that my name is Yehovah. Moses said to Pharaoh, let my people go. Let my people go. And Pharaoh said, they belong to me. They're not going anywhere. And so Yehovah told Moses, stretch out your staff on the water. He stretched out his staff on the water, and the Nile River turned to blood. The fish died, and the fish stank. The whole river stank. All the water in Egypt, in all the vessels, it all turned to blood. But the magicians of Pharaoh were able to do the same thing. And so 7 days later, when Moses came back to Pharaoh with the land stinking, he said to Pharaoh, let my people go. And he would not let the people go. And so Moses then put his staff down, and the land was filled with frogs. The magicians were able to do the same thing. So now there's not only frogs in every container in every home, but now there's double frogs. That doesn't seem like a good idea for a magician to pull, but then finally Pharaoh said, okay, I'll let the people go if you get rid of the frogs. And Moses said, would you like me to get rid of all the frogs or just the land frogs? And Pharaoh said, I want you to get rid of all the frogs. When would you like me to do that? Next week? Next year? When? He said, tomorrow. Okay, tomorrow. All the frogs are gone. The next day, all the frogs were gone. It was repeated by Moses and accomplished. But did Pharaoh let the people go? No, as a typical politician, he made a promise that he never intended on keeping. And so Moses said to Pharaoh again, "Let my people go." And he stamped down his rod, and the dust that came up turned into lice over everyone. And then the magicians, the scripture says that the magicians could not do the same thing. I don't know, is it because they couldn't do it or they were forbidden to do it? I mean, double lice? If I were Pharaoh, I'd say, no, wait, just a minute. But it said that this miracle they couldn't do, so they knew this was the hand of God. Then Moses again said, "Let my people go." And flies then swarmed, and they were in everything except for the homes of the Israelites. This is Baal-zebul, the Lord of the flies. The Almighty is taking out systematically every one of the gods of Egypt. And Pharaoh said, "If you remove the flies, then tomorrow you can go and do sacrifice." So the next day, the flies were gone, and again, Pharaoh lied. He wouldn't let the people go. And then Moses again went before Pharaoh and said, "Let my people go, or tomorrow every kind of livestock is going to die." It wasn't all the livestock, but there were camels and sheep and horses. There were different kinds of livestock. It wasn't something that just went through all the sheep, a disease. No, a bit of every kind of livestock died in the land of Egypt. And still, Pharaoh refused to let the people go. And then Moses then took ashes from ashes from the oven, and he threw it up into the air, and it became boils on all the people. It said that the magicians could not stand before Moses. There were boils on every part of their body. Those of you who have had the unfortunate experience of having a boil, think of it from head to toe, and that is what they were having to endure. And then but without any budging from Pharaoh, then Moses said, "Let my people go, or tomorrow there is going to be hail on the Egyptians. And I'm telling you now," and he told all the Egyptians, "You take cover, you get your children, you get your families, you get your flocks and herds, you get them under cover, because when this hail comes down, it's going to be death." And so now, Pharaoh's servants begin to listen to Moses, because they know that Moses has the authority. And so they start bringing in their children, their flock. Now Pharaoh's people are obeying Moses instead of obeying Pharaoh. And so hail and fire came down, killed the livestock, the people, the standing grain, and the trees, but not among Israel. And Pharaoh then finally says, "I have sinned. Yehovah is righteous." He started out with saying, "I don't know Yehovah. I do not know Yehovah. And nor will I let his people go. The people are mine." Well, his tune is now changing. "I have sinned. Yehovah is righteous. We are wicked. Please pray for me. Stop the plague of hail." And Moses said, "I'll stop the hail immediately if you will recognize this. I'll stop it immediately so that you will understand that Yehovah, to him belongs the entire earth." And it says the flax and the barley were smitten, because the barley was aviv, and yet the rye and the wheat were not yet, they were still green. They were afilot. They were still green. They were still bendable. But when the hail came down, it destroyed the barley because it had reached the stage of aviv. And this is why we're always to remember that we came out of Egypt in the month of the Aviv.
I'll bet you did not know that being an Ambassador Club member gets you exclusive early access to tickets to in-person events right here at A Rood Awakening headquarters. And I'll bet you didn't know that Ambassador Club members also get private invitations to surprise sales and other appreciation events, not to mention special gifts, cards, and other nice stuff. So why do ambassadors get all these perks? Because Ambassador Club members are the ones who keep the lights on, who make sure that new teachings keep coming, and they're the ones we can count on because they're committed every month. The Ambassador Club is an automated donation program of $100 a month or more if you'd like. So if you appreciate the consistency of A Rood Awakening videos, social media posts, events, and most importantly, people to pray with you on the phone and help answer your questions, be a part of the consistency that makes it happen. Join the Ambassador Club.
So, even with the barley being destroyed and all the ripe grain being destroyed, yet Pharaoh refused to let the people go. Moses said, "Let the people go tomorrow. Humble yourself, Pharaoh." And Pharaoh's servants were saying, "Let the people go. Let them go and serve their God. Egypt has been destroyed. Do you not see that, Pharaoh?" And so Pharaoh said to Moses, "Go ahead, serve Yehovah, but only the men. Get out of my sight." And so Moses said, "All right, we're going to take care of this." And he said, there will be locust. And locusts covered the earth, and the locusts ate every remaining vegetation in the land. The land of Egypt was absolutely destroyed. And Pharaoh called to Moses and said, "Okay, I've sinned against Yehovah, and I've sinned against you. I've lied to you, Moses." He's actually admitting he's lied to Moses. And so when he admits it, he somewhat repents, at least acknowledges Yehovah and acknowledges that he lied to Moses. Then a strong wind, west wind, came and pushed the locust into the Yam Suf. And Moses said to Pharaoh, "Let my people go." And he wouldn't do it. And so for the next 3 days and 3 nights, there was complete darkness in the land, except for in the household of the Israelites. They couldn't see the hand in front of their face, complete and utter darkness. And then Pharaoh said, "Okay, go, serve Yehovah with your children, but the livestock stays behind." And Moses said, "Our wives, our children, our flocks, everything is going to go. There's not going to be one hoof left behind." He's yelling at Pharaoh in his own court. And Pharaoh says, "Get out of my sight. You're not going to see my face again." And Moses said, "Well spoken, Pharaoh. Well spoken. I will not see your face again. But there's going to be one more plague. The firstborn in Egypt will die, and you will let my people go. For thus saith Yehovah, about midnight I will go out into the midst of Egypt, and all the firstborn in the land of Egypt will die, from the firstborn of Pharaoh that sits on his throne, even unto the firstborn of the maidservant at the mill, even the firstborn of beast. And there will be a great cry throughout all the land of Egypt, such as one has never been like it, neither shall there be anything like it again." And Moses said to Pharaoh, "All your servants will come to me, and they will bow down to me, and they will cry out to me, 'Get out, you and all the people that follow you.' And after that, I will go out." And Moses stormed out from Pharaoh's presence in great anger. And Moses told the children of Israel, "Request valuables from every Egyptian. Prepare for your exodus." And then there was one last plague. So now the instructions. Yehovah spoke unto Moses and to Aaron in the land of Egypt and said, "This month, the month of the barley being Aviv, this is the first month, the beginning of months for you. It shall be the first month of the year to you. Instruct all the congregation of Israel in the there we go, there. Instruct all the congregation of Israel. In the 10th day of this month, they shall take to them every man a lamb according to the house of their fathers, a lamb for a house. Your lamb shall be without blemish, a male of the first year. You're going to take it out of the sheep or out of the goats, and you're going to keep it until the 14th day of the same month, and the whole assembly of the congregation of Israel shall kill it between the evenings. And they shall take of the blood and strike it on the side post, the 2 side posts, and on the upper door post of the houses, wherein they shall eat it. And they shall eat the flesh in that night, roast with fire, and with unleavened bread, and with bitter herbs they shall eat it. Eat it roasted with fire, with his head and his legs, and with the purtenance thereof. And you shall let nothing remain until the morning. And that which remains in the morning, you shall burn it with fire. You shall eat it with your loins girded, the sandals on your feet, your staff in your hand. You're going to eat it in haste. This is Yehovah's Passover. It was not a pleasant meal to eat it with it roasted with the innards, the guts, with all that is in it, with its head, with its legs, all this. It was not meant to be a delicious meal. And thankfully, that has changed through the ages. You're not going to have that bitter, foul taste in our mouth with this being completely burned with the purtenance thereof. And it is Yehovah's Passover, and he said that I'm going to pass through the land of Egypt this night. I'm going to smite all the firstborn in the land of Egypt, both man and beast. And against all the gods of Egypt I will execute judgment. I am Yehovah. The blood shall be a token upon your houses, and when I see the blood, I'll pass over you. And the plague shall not come into you to destroy you when I smite the land of Egypt. And so Moses called all the elders of Israel and said, draw out and take a lamb according to your families and kill the Passover. And you shall take a bunch of hyssop and dip it in the blood. And then you are to strike it. The hyssop dipped in blood, you're to strike it on the doorpost and on the lintel of your houses. And none of you are going to go out of your house until the morning. For Yehovah will pass through to smite the Egyptians, and when he sees the blood upon the lintel and on the side post, Yehovah will pass over the door and will not allow the destroyer to come in your houses. He will protect you from the destroyer, and this destroyer will not be able to smite you. And so that night, Yehovah smote all the firstborn in the land of Egypt, from the firstborn of Pharaoh that sat upon the throne to the firstborn of the captive that was in the dungeon, and all the firstborn of the livestock. Pharaoh, he rose in the night, he and all of his servants, and all the Egyptians. And there was a great cry in Egypt, because there was not one house where there was not one dead. If the grandfather living in the house was the firstborn, and his son was the firstborn, and his son was the firstborn, you could have 3-4 people in one household dead in one night. It completely ravaged the entire land of Egypt. And so, in the middle of the night, Pharaoh called for Moses and Aaron, and he said, we're all dead men. We're all dead. You've destroyed us. Rise up, get up, go forth, get out of here. Both you and all the children of Israel, go and serve Yehovah as you've said. Take your flocks and your herds, as you have said, and be gone. But bless me, bless me. And the Egyptians urged the people that they might send them out of the land in haste. So the people took up dough before it was leavened, and they bound up their kneaded troughs and put them on their shoulders, and the children of Israel did according to the word of Moses. They borrowed jewels of silver and gold and raiment from the Egyptians, and Yehovah gave the people favor and they spoiled the Egyptians. And the children of Israel journeyed from Ramses to Sukkot, where they picked up the body of Joseph. About 600,000 on foot that were men, besides children. A mixed multitude went up also with them. A mixed multitude. In 4 generations, from Levi to his great-grandchild, 4 generations is all that was in Egypt. And there's no way that we amounted to 600,000 on foot, besides women and children, unless every Israelite woman had hundreds of babies. It was 400 years from when the promise was made to Abraham, when we are said to have been strangers, sojourners in the land. But now in the 4th generation, Abraham was told, in the 4th generation, you're going to come out. And with them, out came a mixed multitude. They also went up with them, their flocks and their herds, very much cattle. And it says, now the sojourning of the children of Israel was 430 years. The sojourning of the children of Israel who were dwelling in Egypt was 430 years. And it came to pass at the end of 430 years, even the selfsame day that the promise was made to Abraham, that his offspring would go down into Egypt and come out in the 4th generation. From that very day of that promise, it was 430 years. And all the host of Yehovah went out from the land of Egypt. It is a night to be much observed unto Yehovah, for bringing them out from the land of Egypt. This is the night of Yehovah to be observed by all of the children of Israel in their generations. And all the children of Israel that came out, and all the mixed multitude that came out, that then crossed the Red Sea. This is a night that we all remember. It wasn't just bloodline Israel. It was also the mixed multitude that joined themselves to Israel that came out. And it says that the children of Israel came out of the land of Israel, harnessed in King James, but in the Hebrew it's in a column of 5s. That's a military formation that we came out of Egypt in a column of 5s, and Moses took the bones of Joseph with him, as Joseph had charged the children of Israel, said, when you come out of the land, because he knew the promise, in the 4th generation, you take my bones with you and take them back to the land that was promised to our father Abraham. And so they took their journey from Sukkot and encamped at Etham, in the far edge of the wilderness. And Yehovah went before them by day in a pillar of a cloud to lead them by the way, and by night in a pillar of fire to give them light, to go by day and by night. And Yehovah spoke unto Moshe, saying, speak to the children of Israel that they turn and encamp before Pi-Hahiroth, between Migdol and the sea, over against Baal-Zephon. Before it you shall encamp by the sea. And Pharaoh is going to say of the children of Israel, they are entangled in the land. They have entered the Wadi Watir, and there's no way out without technical climbing gear. You have to go all the way to the Wadi Watir, to the shore at Nuweiba, Egypt, and that is where they are, and Pharaoh will say the wilderness has shut them in, and they attacked from behind. And the Almighty said, I am going to harden Pharaoh's heart one more time, and he is going to follow after you, and I will be honored upon Pharaoh and upon all of his host. And the Egyptians are going to say and know that I am Yehovah.
Hey, Torah fans, I just want to take a minute on behalf of everyone here at A Rood Awakening to say thank you. Because without you, nothing happens. No Shabbat Night Live, no MichaelRood.tv app, no social media updates, no new videos on YouTube or Rumble. Without you, no one would see anything from Michael Rood or any of the other guest teachers we have on our programs. There's no corporate safety net with a pile of money in case there's not enough. There's no government grant that keeps things going. And we don't ask companies outside this ministry to pay for commercials. In fact, some have offered and we have declined because that's not the way Yeshua did it. Yeshua's ministry needed donations from his followers. Several times in the Gospels, we see that Yeshua asked the disciples to buy something. Without money, how would they do that? They all left their jobs to follow him. And not to mention, the disciples even had Judas to keep track of the money. We don't like asking you to donate. That's uncomfortable for anyone, but we do want to thank you for doing it. You are the reason for every Rood Awakening. Thank you.
With Israel's back to the sea, with no way of escape, the Almighty parted the Yam Suf, the Red Sea, at Pi-Hakerot, where the Wadi Watir empties into the sea. The next morning, Israel crossed over into the land of Midian on dry ground. Attempting to follow Israel through the sea, Pharaoh sent his chariots down into the dry seabed, but the waters deluged the chariots before they reached the shore at Baal-Zephon. And there they are, strewn for 1.5 miles on the bottom of the Red Sea, encrusted in coral. This is the testimony that Yahovah is the God of Israel. It took 7 weeks from the beginning of our Exodus all the way until we got to Mount Sinai. The lessons that we learned on the way to Mount Sinai, such as the Sabbath, this was one of the lessons that we were taught on the way to Mount Sinai. These are critical messages, critical things that we had to learn before we met with the Almighty at Mount Sinai. We had to learn how to purify ourselves, to mikvah ourselves, and to enter into His presence before we got there. We had to learn the sanctity of the Sabbath before we got there. And He caused the manna to rain down or blossom up or whatever had happened, but it did it for 6 days, and on the 6th day it was a double portion, and there was no manna on the 7th day. This is how He instructed us, and He led us to show us and teach us the sanctity of the Sabbath to not only Israel, but the entire mixed multitude that was baptized to Moses in the Red Sea. And so, we went to Marah, and the water was bitter. And we complained to Moses. And then we made it a little bit further inland. And there, where the 12 wells of Elim still are to this day, and that grove of 70 palms has now flourished, and it is hundreds of palms there, but it's the same oasis. And then we continued on, and it says that the people grew impatient, and they murmured against Moses because we got thirsty again. We were becoming weak. We were in desperation. We were so thirsty, and a multitude of people without any water then came to a rock. And they murmured against Moses, said, "Why did you bring us out of Egypt? To kill us and our children and our herds with thirst?" And Moses cried out in desperation to Yahovah, "What shall I do? What shall I do for these people? They are almost ready to stone me." And Yahovah said to Moses, "Take some of the elders with you, and take your rod wherewith you smote the river in Egypt, and go to the rock in Horeb. And there I will stand upon the rock, and you shall strike the rock, and there shall come out water from it, that the people may drink." And in the sight of the elders of Israel, Moses did as he instructed, and Moses smote the rock. Moses and Aaron were told to declare the rock. The rock was to be smitten once, and it was done at Rephidim. But there's another rock that was to follow. And at the end of 40 years, they were told to declare the rock. But because he didn't declare the rock, he struck the rock the second time. He broke the prophetic shadow picture, and the Almighty said, "You have defiled. You have defiled me. You defiled my message. You did not sanctify me. You disobeyed me. You struck the rock the second time, and I don't care that you have spent the last 40 years of your life leading these people. I don't care that you've done all this for me. You are not going into the promised land. I said to specifically declare the rock, and you struck it the second time." The rock was to be smitten once, and after that, the rock was to be declared. Why is the rock so important? In Colossians, Paul instructed his disciple Epaphras and the believers in Colossae, and he said to not let any man, any pagan, any Pharisee, any Sadducee, any atheist, any unbeliever, any religious fanatic judge you on how to celebrate the holy days. Or don't tell them and deliberately ignore their man-made traditions. Don't let them judge you on how you celebrate the feast or ignore their religious traditions. Don't let them do it. Don't let any man judge you. And then Paul revealed what he called the great mystery of the wisdom of God, that the feasts of the Lord are prophetic shadow pictures of good things to come, as well as rehearsals of good things that have happened in the past. Paul said that if Satan and the princes of this world had known what we now know, that the Creator's calendar and the feast of the Lord, the feast of Yehovah, are divinely appointed prophetic shadow pictures, rehearsals, they never would have crucified the Lord of glory. Only those who are now filled with the Spirit and understand the prophetic significance of the feast and their divine timing are qualified how and when to celebrate these things, especially since the temple has been destroyed. We are all in exile, and no one is allowed to sacrifice the Passover or technically keep the feast of Passover in the gates of their own city. Yet these feasts remain as everlasting reminders of God's infinite mercy and righteous judgment. The rock provided the water that saved us just before our mortal combat with the genocidal Amalekites. The rock yielded both the waters of salvation, and because of our belligerence and blasphemy, the rock yielded the waters of contention and division. We hurled insults in the face of God because of our lack of faith and disobedience and not walking into the promised land the first time that the fulfillment of our salvation was offered. Out of the rock flows the waters of salvation, but out of the rock flows division and contention. The very picture at the rock at Rephidim and the straight line of what is north, the spring of salvation, the waters of salvation, because Yeshua is the rock that was to follow. The rock that was to be smitten once, and after that was to be declared. But because Moses broke the shadow picture, he, after a lifetime of faithful servant, a man, there was no man that was meeker than Moses, that was more teachable, that loved God any more than Moses. But he disobeyed, whatever his reason, out of rage. But he disobeyed, and he broke that prophetic shadow picture. And then it says in John, but this Yeshua spoke of the Spirit, which they that believe on him should receive, for the Holy Spirit was not yet given, because Yeshua was not glorified. And so from that rock that followed, 2,000 years later, 500 miles directly north of the rock that Moses first struck, flowed the waters of contention and division. But when the rock is rightfully declared, out will flow rivers of living water from the rock of our salvation, from the spring of Yeshua, from the waters of Yeshua. So I am projecting that the latter rain outpouring of the Spirit, which the prophet Yoel spoke, that double portion of the Spirit will transpire on the last great day, just as Yeshua prophesied this future event. Because every one of the fall feast, Yeshua interpreted so that we would understand it. Then in the synagogue on the Sabbath day, before the new moon appeared after sunset, that was Rosh Hashanah, no, the day of trumpets, not the rabbinic Rosh Hashanah, but the day of trumpets. That is a day that Yeshua in the synagogue proclaimed the resurrection and the last day. The resurrection and the last day. He's telling us the prophetic significance of the day of trumpets, the resurrection. I will raise him up on the last day. He repeated over and over and over. At the feast of Sukkot, what did he do? He sent out 70 disciples at the end of it. Why 70? Because during the feast of Sukkot, we sacrificed 70 bullock as a representation of the provision for the nations, for the Gentiles, for the mixed multitude. And he sends the 70 out at the end as a prophetic significance. I believe that is when the 144,000 of all the tribes of Israel will be sent out at the end of the Feast of Tabernacles, after the latter rain outpouring.
Shalom, Torah fans. Give this video a thumbs up and share it with a friend. Tap the subscription button and the bell icon, and I promise to update weekly with in-depth biblical research. Be sure to download the new michaelrood.tv app for both mobile and home devices for even more commercial-free content.